Welcome. I'm Casey McGregor, a libertarian communist and revolutionary nationalist in Australia. For a good few months now, I've been running multiple weekly live streams on this channel, reading books and playing games just to try and get some things started. Today, as we move into the new year, I just thought I'd post this little intro video introducing myself and giving some updates regarding my plans for 2026 with respect to social media like here on YouTube, but also with respect to local political praxis in my area. So let's get right into it. So, first, I'll be starting with the 2026 content strategy: hardware and equipment upgrades. Before I talk about the content strategy itself, it's pretty clear that the quality of my camera and audio is, well, not great. I also found it quite difficult to stream high spec AAA titles, as can be seen when I tried to stream Assassin's Creed Origins once. It crashed. So, throughout the year, I'll be steadily upgrading my setup with respect to recording and streaming equipment, as well as investing in components for a new and high spec DIY desktop setup. With the desktop, I intend to install the privacy focused Cubes OS onto it from the get go instead of Windows, though I should still be able to play Steam and Windows games via a Windows virtual machine, requiring very high specs. So the new rig alone may cost me 5 figures, but it will serve a second purpose, which I'll explain later. Content diversification. As I just mentioned, I've been doing live streams for a few months now, settling into a schedule of 3 streams a week: a Tuesday reading stream, where I've been reading Vladimir Lenin's Imperialism, the Highest Stage of Capitalism, as part of a unit on imperialism; a Thursday gaming stream, where I've just started Mila's story in Freedom Planet; and a Saturday reading stream, where I've been reading Abram Leon's The Jewish Question, a Marxist interpretation, as part of a unit I titled Israel, Palestine, and the Zionist Problem. I will be continuing with this stream schedule as of now, with all streams kicking off at 6:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. However, in 2026, I want to begin diversifying my content, not just by producing more long form and short form content, along with more written articles on my Substack, the Vanguard Digest, but also by publishing on more platforms. For long form content, my intention is to begin producing educational videos as well as video versions of Vanguard Digest articles, modeled after the style of the channel's Second Thought, to which I am highly indebted to JT Chapman for his content introducing me to socialist politics, even if I've since diverged towards the ultra-left in terms of my interpretation of communism. For short-form content, I'm not certain what approach I'll take yet, though I've floated ideas like shorter critiques and responses, as well as small updates here and there, or clips and summaries of long-form videos. I also aim to get my Substack, the Vanguard Digest, back on track with new articles and written content, with future articles to be published to other platforms like X, formerly Twitter, as well. I'll also be aiming to stream to other platforms than just YouTube, such as Twitch, Kick, and X. Future long-form and short-form content will also be published to both YouTube and TikTok, as well as other platforms like Instagram Reels. However, there are some additional platforms I'll aim to be publishing to later in 2026, which brings me seamlessly to the next part of the strategy: Fediverse. For anyone watching who is not yet familiar with the Fediverse, in short, It's a decentralized network of mostly free and open source social media platforms running on the ActivityPub Federation protocol, which allows you to create your own private server, or instance as it's sometimes called, to retake control of your own data or simply join another existing instance. The most popular Fediverse platform is Mastodon, a microblogging service similar to X. So if you're a Mastodon user, you're already in the Fediverse, though chances are you may just be using the standard Mastodon run instance. Relevant to my 2026 content strategy, however, are two other Fediverse services, PeerTube and Loops. If Mastodon is a Fediverse alternative to X, then PeerTube and Loops are Fediverse alternatives to YouTube and TikTok, respectively. Once I've got my new DIY desktop, I intend to set up my own Fediverse instance to host my long-form videos and stream archives on PeerTube and my short-form content on Loops. I encourage everyone watching to check out the Fediverse. I've put the link to the Wikipedia page for the ActivityPub protocol, where there is a list of supported platforms into the description below. Not all the platforms are considered part of the Fediverse, as Instagram Threads and Flipboard are among the few corporate-owned platforms that have adopted the ActivityPub protocol in their services. To help encourage adoption, I will likely produce some bonus content exclusively for PeerTube and Loops, so keep an eye out for that. I'll be uploading tutorials to set up your own Fediverse instance once I've set up my own. This is part of my recent push towards the promotion of digital privacy and security in the face of this year's round of anti-privacy and age verification laws in Western countries, including the under 16 social media ban that rolled out in Australia at the start of this month. I went out and purchased a Google Pixel 9a and immediately flashed it with Graphene OS before the rollout of the ban, and have taken other steps to detach from big tech in my private life, including beginning to move my messages to Signal instead of SMS, using an always-on Mullvad VPN and the Brave browser, and using private email with Proton and more. Opting for Qubes OS over Windows for my DIY desktop is another such measure. I'll be sure to make some digital privacy content in the future, but there's plenty of explicitly privacy-focused channels here on YouTube if you want to learn more about that. With the content strategy out of the way, let's move on to the next part, relating to local political praxis. 2026 Political Action Plan. Operation Crop Circle. Operation Crop Circle is the code name I've given to the first and most important part of my political action plan for 2026. When trying to build a new society, it is better to start now, working within your means to help build the society you want to create. This is a concept known by the name prefiguration, and is often described in simple terms as building the new society in the shell of the old. Another important concept underpinning Operation Crop Circle is that of propaganda by the deed. To be very clear from the outset, I'm not referring to the term as understood by insurrectionary anarchists as referring to premeditated adventurous acts of terrorism. History has shown that approach as being more than counterproductive. Rather, I am understanding the term as other anarchists, including anarcho-pacifists and Christian anarchists, understand it, as referring to prefiguration as a means of showing the masses that a better world is possible. A show-don't-tell approach, if you will. So, why the codename Crop Circle? Is my plan to somehow trigger social change by faking UFO incidents? Of course not. It's a plan for building a robust network of agriculture mutual aid to free people from the tyranny of the supermarket duopoly. The code name is named after an informal network of households engaging in home gardening and crop sharing, among a few other things of the same name in my home area of Charters Towers, the Crop Circle. And this network is precisely what I intend to build off as a foundation for a more robust and decommodified mutual aid network. It's really as simple as just getting more households involved and coordinating for the creation of a local and fully decommodified circular supply chain for food and produce, along with some extra stuff, in theory. In practice, it's not so simple. Many people just don't have the time or money to be investing in home gardening, even if, in the long term, doing so brings a benefit in the form of cutting out the grocery store or supermarket, along with the reduction in cost of living that comes with that. Many others aren't able to labor away in a garden due to old age or disability. And a lot of other people just think with a selfish mindset, cultivated by decades of hyper individualist neoliberal propaganda. I've got two main ideas to try and solve at least some of these problems. Tithe Bank. I've got something to say about the local churches in a bit, but I'll say that at least some of the churches in this area don't really practice what they preach. That's the reason I don't give offerings or tithes to them. So instead, I came up with another idea. Starting today, and every fortnight going forward when my paycheck comes in from my paid employment, that I keep completely separate from my public profile for reasons that should be obvious, I will allocate up to 10% of each paycheck, as I can afford, to be placed into a savings account as a tithe to be used to financially support mutual aid projects in the region, including that which involves the local churches, which I'll elaborate on in a bit. In the long term, I'm hoping the tithe bank idea can become an essential feature of a future political party or other organizational project. Volunteer army. The second idea, and the most decisive one if I don't want to burn out from overworking myself doing this alone, is to begin organizing a volunteer army which can allocate time towards helping others with gardening, harvesting, cooking, and distribution, as well as with other tasks in time. As you can see, I'm referring to an army of volunteers, not a volunteer civilian militia. This is another idea with much future potential, but I will be setting my explicit goals low this year. By the end of 2026, my goal is to establish a small volunteer base of 10 or more people. For this, I will aim to approach the youth, those with the most at stake in the coming crisis, and the most time and ability to assist. Operation Soup Kitchen. Okay, so this codename probably sounds even worse than the last one, but it is connected and named after the fact that there is a local non-profit that owns a community garden and uses some of the produce grown there for a soup kitchen. Okay, the code names are a work in progress. But anyway, Operation Soup Kitchen is the other key component of the same broader community agriculture plan as Operation Crop Circle. If Operation Crop Circle is about home gardens and crop sharing, then Operation Soup Kitchen is about community gardens and charity distribution. They're two sides of the same coin. The aforementioned local non-profits community garden is an initial part of this strategy, but there are other plans for the use and creation of other community gardens once the volunteer army plan begins to come to fruition. But for now, there's just the one garden on the active roadmap. Now, since it relates to charity distribution, it's time to talk about the local churches. Churches and charity. Now, as mentioned when I talked about the tithe bank, at least a few of the local churches in Charters Towers are. Is hypocritical the right term for not practicing what you preach? And does someone whom the morality of Jesus of Nazareth has rubbed onto lately, if not the supernatural claims of the Christian faith, I can say with certainty that if there is one thing he hated, it was hypocrisy. I haven't yet checked with all the local churches, just a few, so there may be some that aren't so bad. Despite what I've encountered, though, I hold out hope for these churches to see the light and begin practicing their professed faith rather than just spouting it. Namely, I'm hoping that the churches can be a main base for the charitable distribution of fresh crops and pre made meals to those in need as part of Operation Soup Kitchen. To this end, funds saved from the tithe bank may be conditionally available to the churches for the purchase of fridges, freezers, and other kitchen and cooking appliances, as some have kitchens which may be usable for the preparation of meals. This is a little difficult when pretty much all the churches here are only open on Sundays for their worship services, something which I didn't see when I lived in Townsville, but I'm sure this can be sorted out in time. For now, I'm sure the local non-profit soup kitchen is sufficient while the necessary preparations are made. Clean Up Australia Day 2026. This is one I've had my eye on for a couple of years now. I'm still far from at the point where events can be organised for Clean Up Australia Day, but maybe next year. But this doesn't mean I will let the day go to waste. In the spirit of propaganda by the deed, I will take the day off work and spend all day on Sunday, March the 1st, 2026, walking around with a roll of trash bags, picking out rubbish from around the town in my trademark red cowboy uniform, with flyers on my person to hand out to curious passers-by with information about the aims which I have laid out here, among others, to encourage networking and contribution. I will possibly do a live stream on the day, but that's up in the air, so keep an eye out for news on that. And that is the 2026 Political Action Plan. These projects are, of course, subject to change based on evolving conditions, and there is much more planned for the future. As for content like cooking, gardening, or public event videos and streams, there is a chance such content may be housed on a separate channel and separate accounts to my personal content, so keep an eye out for that as well. Now, onto a few final points. One thing that has taken a bit of a back seat for a while now in the midst of my entry into activism and a much busier schedule that is only getting busier has been my longest held dream of writing as an author, especially fiction. I'm setting one goal for 2026 on this front: to have the draft for my first original fiction novel done by the end of the year for editing and self-publishing in 2027. Stay tuned for news on that front. I'll finish off with some New Year's resolutions I've set for this year, which mainly revolve around personal health and fitness. My first resolution is to lose the gut and maybe replace it with a six-pack if I'm lucky. I've been going to the gym for a while lately, and I want to start ramping that up and changing my diet. Speaking of diet, my second resolution is to fully switch to a vegan diet by the end of the year with help from a dietitian to ensure healthy intake. I may stop short of full veganism if I can get eggs through crop sharing from chickens that aren't made to be slaughtered for meat later on, but otherwise, full veganism. My third and final resolution is one that has been a resolution for a few years now, and is probably going to be the most difficult one, which is to quit smoking. I'm 24 now. I only really started smoking a few years ago. I was not a teenage smoker, though I currently lack the willpower to quit, so we'll see how that one goes. To end off, I guess there's a sense in which everything I've described here is like one big New Year's resolution. So hopefully come exactly a year from now, I can sit here and say with confidence that 2026 was a very productive year. So, with that, I'll sign off for the year. 2025 went quickly. Let's make 2026 one to remember. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe to my channel and click on that notification bell if you want to be kept up to date on new content and updates. And my stream archives are stored in the playlist tab if you're interested. Goodbye, everyone. I wish you all a happy new year, and I'll see you in 2026.